Trick or treat! That's right. We are trick or treating here tonight on Sportswire Radio. You're watching the World Series, and certainly it has been a scary game for those Arizona Diamondbacks. You're thinking about what else is out there. You're getting ready for maybe some colder weather and the candy you had your stuff from. Well, you know what? Forget all about that because we are now in the danger zone on Sportswire Radio because we are going to get you ready for it with our brand new champion, a man that was here the first time, and he had a lot to say. If you've been following the last few shows on Sportswire Radio, you know maybe these youngins or some newer kids on the block, you might want to say, have been saying a few things, maybe even taking some jabs at the champion, but I'm sure the champion is going to respond and some and show us why he is the it factor. This man has done it all in DBW. He needs no further introduction, but because this is round 2 of him on Sportswire Radio, he needs to get that introduction and some that everybody else has gotten to know. By the way, some of his peers have gotten, some of those peers he's defeated recently in the ring. So with that, without further ado here on the Sports Report, number 1 global sports show, the reigning, defending DBW global champion. They call him the It Factor, Cyrus. The champ is there.
Absolutely. I'm proud to be back here. And again, I know everybody has a lot of questions, especially you, Rev, and I'm sure you want them answered. And I know a lot of people really just want to know what's what. So let's not waste any time and get right to it.
But I think you have a little bit of an echo in the background.
There we go.
I want to adjust that. So obviously it is good to be with you, champ. But first of all, congratulations. The most important thing is you are now the brand new DBW global champion. And I have to ask you right off the bat, for those that are listening and watching here on Sportswire Radio, what does it mean to you, the It Factor Cyrus, to be the brand new DBW global champion?
I mean, honestly, it means a lot with everything I have accomplished in DBW over my career. It also brings a new kind of feel to the global championship, as there's a lot of hungry guys in the locker room that really want to be champion, and they want to use me as a stepping stone to go and accomplish set title. Well, they need a newsflash because it ain't going to happen on my accord as long as I'm DBW global champion.
You know, that's interesting because we were talking about this off the air before we came on, and I kind of sense the same thing. We're going to get to some of those recent guests and some different people that have said a lot about you, but I almost feel like that they're trying to knock you off the block. They're looking at you, these youngins, these new kids on the block, as I said, and they're trying to basically take the old dog out and put him out to pasture. But you've shown us, champ, these past few times we've seen you in the ring, not only have you been the one that's taken the names and bringing them to attention and where they should be put in their own place, you're the guy that's got the belt. And I'm sure it's certainly got to have put a fire under you because these youngins have tried to kind of, like I said, put you out to pasture. And this new attitude, some may say, it has certainly benefited you to where we are right now with you in that championship.
Well, absolutely. Over my career in DBW, if you have followed, great, congratulations. If you didn't follow, maybe you should get with the times and follow. There have been many people that tried to, quote, put me out to pasture and say I don't have it no more, and they're the new generation coming in, and they're going to take DBW by storm, and then they meet yours truly, and then they get knocked down a peg or two, and then they realize, hey, we're in the big league now. This guy ain't playing. And then they try to go on to the next one, and then the next one. And then they realize sometimes it comes full circle, and then they take on yours truly again, and then I got to knock them down another peg. But with me having this quote new attitude, clearly it helped me win the global championship because I really don't give a damn about who's in my way at this point.
I'm glad that you said that, because I think one of the things, and one of our more recent guests certainly was talking about how he did it for the fans, and he's here with us. But, I ask this question all the time because we have wrestlers all around the world here on Sportswire. We speak with people in England. We speak with, obviously, people here in the States, different companies, obviously a lot with DBW. We love DBW here in Sportswire Radio. But, I've always felt this question I've asked over the past few years, and I want to ask you this question. Some people say, yeah, I do it for the fans, and it's all about the fans. But the wrestlers that I've had on here in my 5 years throughout my career on Sportswire, they're the ones that have told me, no, Tom, you do it because it's about the money, and you do it to win championships here. Because in this sport, the facts of the matter is there is no loyalty, and there's very few friends. So kind of clarify this, because I think this has been a big hot topic here for whatever reason, when I think those who are successful have kind of answered that question, and you have probably done that with your actions, sir.
Listen, I'll be quite honest with you. I've done it for the fans many, many years. I've always catered to the fans. I always gave the fans what they wanted. They were always behind Cyrus. They always loved the It Factor. They knew the It Factor was going to, do everything at any cost in order to get the victory, in order to capitalize on anything he was accomplishing. But then I came to a realization with everything I have accomplished, and then I realized, quite frankly, I don't need the fans, because I'm great in my own right for how many championships I've won in this company, for all the opponents I've taken on. So personally, I don't pander to the fans anymore. I pander to myself and look at it. I mean, look at Rev. I didn't pander to the fans. I pandered to myself, and I knew. That's good. I knew coming into the global tournament, I knew right from the get-go, as soon as you put me in that tournament, I knew I was going to win. But I didn't want to, foreshadow the future, because everyone would have been like, oh, no, I'm taking down the It Factor. No, I'm going to take down the It Factor. No one took down the It Factor, because at the end of the day, at World War, clearly yours truly walked out as DBW Global Champ.
And one of those wrestlers certainly, I think, in a way, maybe overlooked you in that to get you to that championship. I have a question, though, and tell me your thoughts on this. And
Yes.
We'll obviously recap some of the people that you've defeated. We're already getting comments, and I'll tell everybody, give me a few minutes. We'll certainly bring you into the discussion. But do you feel like, and I'll ask this in two ways, and tell me what your thoughts are, champ. Do you feel like that, A, some of your opponents looked past you, and B, almost kind of took you lightly because of your age, your experience, and kind of maybe the time you stepped away from DBW? What is your thoughts on some of that?
I mean, quite frankly, a couple of the people I took on in this tournament, they kind of saw me as an opportunity to get their name out there, to make themselves better at my accord. But little did they know that I was always one step ahead no matter what. They always thought they were a step of me, and when they thought they were one step, I was actually two steps ahead. And, there was first-time encounters. There was encounters, that 6 years in the making. But, the people I faced need to understand that I am not going anywhere, that it's always going to be the It Factor on top. I'm going to be the longest reigning DBW Global Champion. And if anybody has anything to say about it, whether it be a DBW, VTW, or any other company out there, they can gladly come to DBW and tell me different.
You said one company there, VTW.
Yes, VTW.
I'm going to certainly get to them in a few minutes, but I'm going to ask you this question again in a different way. You've got this title, and you've certainly got an edge about you. There's no question what you're doing in the ring, and especially when you took on an opponent that you haven't seen in 6 years, and certainly he probably soaking wet weighs like 15 pounds. I mean, I'll certainly get to him. But I thought you'd laugh. I think even Pearson laughed when I had him on last week. But the point of the matter is, is that maybe this is what you need in order to survive in a new DBW environment. We all know that DBW has come a long way. You know
Yes.
this better than anybody. We know that DBW right now is one of the hottest places to be. We know that from people all over the place, whether it's in different states, different promotions, indies, people want to come to DBW. And you know what? The it factor, Cyrus, you know how to win. You know how to be a champion. And maybe this is what you see almost in a way, not to maybe modernize the it factor, Cyrus, but almost in a way to kind of like thrive and survive in these times in this new DBW environment. I mean, what do you think about some of that?
Think about in what regard, Rev? What exactly are you trying to hinder at?
I'm trying to say basically that this new edge that you've got
Yes.
is almost like a new and improved Cyrus. It's almost in a way with all these different people, these Johnny come latelys, all of a sudden, all these different people that now want to be a part of DBW. It's a different DBW environment now. And
Yes.
this is kind of your way to be able to thrive and almost kind of show that, you know what? You're the guy that's playing at the flag here. DBW has been built by guys like you, and this edge is kind of, like I said before, your way of thriving and continuing to do what you've done throughout your tenure in DBW.
Yes, and I'm always going to thrive no matter what. I've always mentioned it previously, many years that I've been in DBW, that DBW was my house of greatness. I am not going to, at any point in time, have any newcomer, any veteran, or anybody come waltz right into this company and think that they could just, quote, quote, take over, or quote, quote, think that they're going to, get on my level that I've, placed thus far. And it's really, kind of embarrassing to these new guys coming in, because they see the roster. They like the roster. They see guys, they want fresh matchups, and, they choose me. Why do they choose me? Because quite frankly, I'm great. I am great in my own right. I am the embodiment of greatness. I am greatness personified. And for them to actually choose me, they should be honored. But some of them think they're not honored, and they think they could just easily, pick up a victory. But at the end of the day, I'm standing tall over them.
Do you feel that you've been disrespected by some of your recent opponents in the ring?
As far as disrespecting, no.
Okay.
I've taken on the Bone Shaker, and the man.
We're gonna get to him. He's here in the comments. I'm gonna get to him.
I guarantee he's in comments. He's probably still waiting for the goddamn handshake.
I was gonna get to that too.
Somebody
certainly read my
notes. We will
notes.
get to that, and I will elaborate on that. But I do not feel disrespected. What I do feel disrespected about is, and I'll touch upon this, and I just touched upon it briefly a couple moments ago, is the fans. Literally, the fans here in DBW were great from the start. I have done everything I possibly can to make sure these fans have the absolute best entertainment when I got in that ring. And then when the fans started to worry about flips, and they started worrying about this, and
outside ring stuff, sure.
They started worrying about everything else. And then when Cyrus came out, the cheers were there. Oh, yay, go Cyrus. Yay, Cyrus is here. The momentum was shot. The momentum was shot, and then I realized that everyone wants to move on to the new thing. So guess what? Cyrus took a step back, reevaluated everything, and he realized, hey, I'm going to give you a new thing, and here's the new thing. The new thing is this Cyrus that you're seeing right now.
And I'll tell you what, it's definitely working, and some, because you're the guy with gold, and some of these, let's say, mainstays and some of these outsiders from different promotions, they're the ones that are certainly without it and holding the bag empty-handed. So let me get to some comments here.
Yes.
Want to say hello to my buddy Ron from the state of Pennsylvania. Good evening, Tom. Happy Halloween. Changed his photo there, so I appreciate that, Ron. Want to say hello to my buddy from Australia, who I know is chomping at the bit to come on to Sportswire. We'll certainly make that happen here very, very soon. Give me a week or two, and we'll make that happen. Mr. Ace Reed of the Wired Up podcast. How you doing, Ace? And certainly happy Halloween, although it's, I think, November now, technically, where you are, because it's 12 p.m. in Australia, November 1st. Want to say hello to my buddy Skulls, the Soul Hunter. Happy Halloween, folks. Yes, and Skulls, I'm sure you got some candy, and the Bone Shaker is listening. Going to definitely get to him. But I got a comment here, and I see Omen Black's talking about obviously some things about the Winter Clash, and big shout outs to IMF, but we're here with DBW, and I appreciate Omen, and we'll definitely get to them soon. But let me bring in this comment up here. Seriously, Cyrus, cocky much. I think you need to get off your high horse. What do you think about that? There are some people that think that you kind of think the way you think, and what do you say to all that?
It's not a matter of being cocky, because if you're cocky, you're not really cocky if you could back it up. And I could back it up, in the ring, out of the ring, on the mic, off the mic. It doesn't matter. I'm sorry, I am cocky, and I am confident in my ability to step into any type of ring at any moment in time and perform at the highest level. So if you feel I'm cocky, kudos to you. Congratulations.
So you feel like then it's just a matter of you get the job done, and it's not a matter of being cocky. It's just a matter of stating the obvious, no?
Yep, that's absolutely obvious. You're absolutely right.
Okay, well, certainly I'll come back to some of that. But you said something real interesting, and now I do want to bring it up. You spoke about a company called VTW versus the World Wrestling. And it's obviously a company that we've seen a lot of crossover with DBW. We've seen DBW talents go in there, and we've seen almost, how can I put it? It almost reminds me of like when I was a kid in music class and I was studying music and I was trying to be a musician. They talked about the British invasion. And it
Yes.
almost seems like in DBW right now, we've seen what's called a VTW invasion. A who's who of talent in VTW have shown up here. And one of those opponents in particular, you defeated Ecstatic. I mean, another guy that wanted to plant his flag here at your expense. And I have to ask you, maybe in a general feeling here, sir, because we've seen, like I said, a large number of VTW wrestlers here in a number of different facets on Thunder Punch shows, certainly at World War. And I'm curious on, what do you think about all of this now, these outsiders, the VTW invasion that has come to DBW?
Listen, the VTW invasion can keep, populating and generating more people. I have nothing but respect for that company, for those competitors that come to DBW. Or, when DBW goes down there,
Sure.
we showcase our talent and we show them why we are the premier underground federation, going today. And the thing is, Ecstatic came in, like you said, he wanted to plant his flag on his accord. Little did he know that he is, essentially the silver standard. Well, guess what? Yours truly, am the new silver standard going forward because, as you can see, I dominated him from pillar to post. And quite frankly, I was even respectful. And at the end of that match, I shook that man's hand.
You did.
Listen, he did the same thing Robert Pearson did, and he wanted a handshake. Well, after the end of the match, I shook his hand.
All right, so I have a follow-up to that. Okay, so in a way, you talked about VTW, and obviously we know that DBW talent, many of them have been a part of VTW, and obviously we have actually somebody that wrestles in DBW under maybe a different alias that's a champion in VTW. So we get the point. But
Yes.
Do you think then maybe, is it fair for me to ask you that, yeah, you shook Ecstatic's hand because in a way you did kind of nod to what VTW has done, but in a way Pearson, who's kind of like the quintessential new kid on the block in DBW, the kind of guy that certainly doesn't have the kind of experience that maybe warrants that handshake. And that's maybe kind of why you didn't shake his hand versus at least you gave sort of a slight nod there when it came to an Ecstatic in VTW. What do you say?
As quite frankly, I will never, ever, and you could jot this down, Rev, and I know the Bone Shaker's listening, and I listen loud and clear. Mm-hmm. I will not give you the nod as long as I am in this company. Maybe on my way out the door, I'll give you the nod and I'll give you the handshake that you so rightfully desire and that you quote, quote, dream of because I was your hero. Well, guess what? As long as I am in this company, as long as I am champion, and as long as I am dominating inside that squared circle, I will not give you the nod. Maybe one day I will wake up and see the light and give a nod to all these newcomers that are coming in the company. But as of right now, I am not giving a nod to any of them because, quite frankly, in my book, they haven't accomplished anything that, suffices their ability to even remotely compete on my level.
Well, I think there's a point to be made that certainly Pearson's track record versus your track record being objective. I mean, it's almost like comparing, how can I put this, nicely, let's say the 27 Yankees versus like the 1967 Yankees. I get that, and I'm trying to be very objective here about this.
Yes.
But he had a comment after the match, and he was here with us, and you obviously were going back and forth with him. And he talked about the fact that don't meet your heroes. He said he watched you, he looked up to you. How do you react to a comment like this? Now you're in the chair. We heard from him last week.
Yes,
he had to say a lot. But what do you say on that?
Listen, I am glad that he watched me, coming up to now in his career in DBW, and I'm glad that he took pointers or whatever else that he did following my career. Great. I commend him from that. Maybe in his right, he was watching greatness unfold, so maybe he figures putting two and two together. Hey, I'm watching greatness unfold, so maybe one day I could be as great as Cyrus. Well, maybe he should understand that it doesn't, greatness doesn't happen overnight like yours truly. I mean, but it's true, Rev. Hey, I wake up and I'm great from, day to night, midday, it doesn't matter. But it's going to take Robert Pearson, honestly, quite some time in order to be great as the great, It Factor Cyrus himself, as great as Mr. Judgment, as great as any other great that has stepped foot in the DBW ring.
And I feel like Robert Pearson certainly, again, he talked about going about it for the fans.
Yes.
You have done a lot in this sport, and especially in DBW. Yes. You may even have somebody related to you, or you may want to even say an offspring of yours that is going and doing some big things out there, right?
Let me cut you off. Are we talking about Mr. RJ Carnage?
Yes, sir.
Well, I'll give a shout out to RJ Carnage. Hey, RJ Carnage, yours truly here. I'll break the fourth wall. It's your uncle, okay? And hey, kudos to you for, pushing forward. But again, you saw the inevitable and you dropped the global championship because you knew your ass beat was coming your way. So you gladly stepped out of my way so that way I could just take the DBW global title without putting you down like Old Yeller.
Now, but this wasn't so much about him in my point. My point is that you have a family name in this sport that has had success. That's my point. Mr. Pearson is obviously learning. He's obviously going about it in his way that he thinks it may work. Do you think then, from your vantage point, that maybe Mr. Pearson's going about it all wrong?
He is going about it all wrong because, again, like I said, I was hindering to the fans. I dropped the fans. Look where I'm at. He needs to get on the realization that the fans aren't going to help him. He's pandering to the fans. The fans are behind him, which is great now. But again, he's going to have to realize in order to win championships in this company, he has to be for himself, whether it's with his tag team partner in Chaos Conspiracy, whether it's Jackson Sabre behind him. He's going to come to the realization that the fans aren't going to help him in any regard. They may cheer him now, but I'll be very surprised going forward he ever wins a DBW championship on any level with the fans behind him.
All right, well, I could ask a lot more about that, but I have some more comments, so let me get to them here.
Yes.
I want to say hello to Ron, and says, people confuse cockiness with confidence. I think kind of what we were talking about. I mean, you just feel pretty much confident. You know what you're doing. You've had the success, and maybe people have overlooked that. And I do want to get to management because DBW management here. Before I do that, let me plug DBW because if you haven't got a chance, and clearly you need to get your heads examined, by the way. If you haven't watched World War, go do that on YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling. Go support them on Twitter at Wrestling DBW. Check them out on Facebook at Dominating Backyard Wrestling. And you can also buy a shirt. If you go to DBW's page, you can find out more information. Support this cause. Support all the great people that put DBW and made it the company that it is today. And it's going to be going even to bigger and better places when we go past dangers. I want to be coming up here. And stay tuned for more details. And also, in a little while, I have a couple of announcements for more DBW guest ahead here. And this is from management. Not so sure Cyrus' motives are as true as they once were, but he is the DBW Global Champion. Now, I would remind people of this. You did say when you were here the first time to watch what was going to happen.
Yes.
You did, in a way, how can I put this, kind of foreshadow things ahead. So you did kind of like maybe to steal partial of a phrase of somebody we know very well who we might announce here real soon. You were kind of like a prophet in what you were going to do. I mean, what is your reactions to that and to this comment from management?
Listen, I'm going to tell you a story, Rev. It's story time with yours truly, Cyrus.
Yes, sir.
Like I mentioned, RJ Carnage dropped that title.
Yes, I remember it very well.
He knew the inevitable was coming. So once I knew RJ dropped that title, I knew what I needed to do to get the job done to be DBW Global Champion. I had zero motives except to win that title at any cost, because I felt prior to me being DBW Global Champ, the global division was very lackluster. It was very high flying, very over the top, flippies, this, that, and the third. No, it's going back to traditional wrestling. And that's why I feel the global division needs traditional wrestling. It needs mat-based wrestling. It needs basic collar elbow tie-ups, wrist locks. It needs that
psychology,
yes,
submissions, kind of.
Absolutely, Rev. And if the global division has that with me, then it will be a must-see global championship division going forward. That is my motive, and that's how Chapter 1 in the Book of Cyrus came to a close at World War.
All right, let me ask a slight follow-up on that, and I'll get to a couple more comments from Mr. Pearson himself. But in a way, do you kind of want to almost like take the global championship and make it kind of like the measuring sticks title or the standard bearer title? Whereas in DBW, some of the things you talked about, I agree. I'm watching you in the ring and watching the matches that you had to get there, regardless of what people might think, they were great matches. There were certainly things done in there that, we're not used to seeing so much. There's certain matches you watch and guys are about the high flying. Guys are about the spots in the outside. Whereas, you're going to use your experience almost to be, how can I put it, like a technician out there, almost like a floor general. So do you, in a way, maybe want to take this championship and kind of make it almost like the measuring stick or kind of the standard bearer championship here in DBW?
This global championship is going to be the measuring stick for any level of competition coming into DBW, whether you're as green as the grass or whether you're a seasoned vet. It will be the measuring stick for DBW. I will almost go out on a limb and try to make this global championship the destination championship that you do want to compete for in this company.
Well, you know what? I'm excited about it, and I'm excited about all things related to DBW. And I want to give Cyrus actually a big plug, because if you haven't got a chance to follow him, go follow him on Twitter, or else he will go beat you down. He will hunt you, and he will put you out to pasture. You can check him out on Twitter at _factor_Cyrus. Also, check him out on YouTube. There is a YouTube page out there, @FactorCyrus. Just follow him whenever you can. Just go out there and do it. And I got a couple more comments, and let me get to them here. Before I get to the bone shaking, let me do it here while I have a chance, while people are coming in here. I want to make my announcement, actually, my first of two guests coming on here. And that is this coming Monday night here, Monday about 9 o'clock Eastern time, we're going to have on rescheduled, because obviously he's a busy man these days, and he's obviously got a lot going on here. Our reigning, defending DBW champion of the world,
Yes.
Mr. Judgment, the final boss, the prophet
Yes.
of purgatory, is coming back to Sportswire Radio with our rescheduled victory celebration, where he is going to address the DBW nation. He is going to give his state of things here in DBW, and he is certainly going to crow. He is certainly going to celebrate, because obviously we know the Heretics have those tag team titles. Divinity is stronger than ever, and he's going to tell us here all about that and some. So this is one you are not going to want to miss, and if you do miss it, you will certainly be felt. So I promise that you're going to want to tune in here Monday night, a little around 9 p.m. Eastern time, and do that right here on Sportswire Radio. And also, again, please support DBW on all of their platforms. And I'm telling you, if you don't, Mr. Judgment will come after you. So now that I've got that out of the way, my first of two guests for announcing, let me get to what Mr. Judgment has to say. I enjoy this new Cyrus. You finally realize that all of these mortal filth bags in the DBW universe were just holding you back from your true potential. What do you have to say from an old foe, a familiar face, and certainly a guy you have certainly had a lot of wars with, but also share a lot of respect with,
Yes.
Mr. Judgment? What do you want to say?
Hey, the statement's right there. He is absolutely correct. In his words, these mortal filth bags did hold me back. I wasn't able to fulfill my full potential. And by turning a new leaf, so to say, again, look at I'm champ, I'm this, I'm that. I mean, I could go on and on and on and on and on. But again, my fellow, comrade, Mr. Judgment, finally, in a way, helped me see things clearly because, I've been watching him here and there.
And he certainly listened what he did to his offspring, and he certainly put him out to pasture.
Yes, he did. And you know what? I witnessed that match, and I told everybody, and there was a special guest commentator, and I tried to tell that commentator that no matter what, Mr. Judgment will forever be the final boss in DBW. He will forever hold that DBW World Championship. And there's not a damn soul on this planet that's going to take that title from him.
I have to say, leading up to that match with the Blaze Ace Christian, I was kind of saying, if you look at the shape Mr. Judgment is in, you look at what he's done in the ring these past few months, you look at his mindset, we had him here, and I kind of felt, despite what everybody was saying, that Mr. Judgment kind of was the guy I thought was going to find a way and retain his championship, and he showed how clever he was despite everything that was thrown at him. I mean, listen, another one of his offsprings was actually part of how he kept that championship. So he's a very, very clever person. He has shown why he is the final boss, and we're going to get a chance to talk to him as he gives his state of things here in DBW, his victory celebration. And if you are in the DBW universe, you are not going to want to miss this one, 9 p.m. Eastern time, because listen, you're going to be bored with Monday Night Football. You're not going to be watching Raw. You're going to certainly have a hangover from the World Series. So head on to Sportswire, get your DBW dose, and it'll be 9 o'clock Eastern time here.
Yes.
I want to say hello to somebody else whose obviously father-in-law is coming up to his retirement in the ring. That is over in Festus from XCW, and we have XCW coverage I'll get to at the end of the show. That'll be my last announcement. But obviously, Michael Blackharp says, I've heard many things about you, Cyrus. Great to finally meet you. And obviously, Michael has been a big supporter of ours here on Sportswire, and his father-in-law does a great job as a referee in some places like XCW, another company that we enjoy to cover here. And let me get to a bunch of comments here from the Bone Shaker because he's got a lot to say. He's calling RJ Carnage the GOAT. I know you disagree with that.
So he ain't the GOAT.
Well, I thought he looked up to you. I thought he looked up to you, sir.
He looked up to me. You're looking at the goddamn GOAT right now.
Well, you're certainly in a discussion. I'll say that in DBW history, you are definitely in that discussion. But let's forget about that for a second. Why wait until you're out them doors? Next time we meet again, we will be on an equal level. If you won't shake my hand, I'll just have to take that global belt from you. Now, he said here that he wanted another confrontation with you. And I told him, this is what I told him. Let me remind you. I know you were here, but let me refresh you. I said, you're the champion. You already defeated him. Why are you going to grant him another shot? What's the reason? So, I mean, I ask it to you. I mean, you already beat him. You didn't even beat him for the title. You beat him in a quarterfinals match, and you gave him an opportunity to be in the main event in DBW, a spot he really hasn't been in much. So, I mean, do you gain anything from this at all? I mean, if I'm you as the champion, I would kind of move on, but what's your thoughts?
Listen, I don't gain nothing from facing him again. I did give him a main event spotlight. Obviously, he couldn't hold a candle to be in the main event as he, let that candle burn out and he burnt himself, to the mat. By me granting him another title shot, it's not going to do me any good. I mean, I'll gladly give him another title shot whenever he feels. Like I mentioned when he was on your podcast, hell, I'll even, throw, Jackson Sabre in there and, his other little, puppet, Jacob Cassidy, he follows around like a lost puppy dog. I'll take on all three of them. It'll be a fatal four-way. Hell, add another one in there. I'll take on the fifth one. At the end of the day, it's not going to benefit me. But if he wants to be, shoulders to the mat again, I'll gladly do that. I will gladly do that on his accord.
All right, let me ask you a slight thought because I want to talk about a few other things. But is this where his inexperience comes out?
Absolutely. Because he got a taste of that main event, and now he wants to get more and more a taste of that main event. He wants to be in that bigger spotlight. And again, I mentioned this previously in the beginning of this podcast, that he wants to do it on my accord, and he's not going to do it on my accord because he's just going to falter yet again, and then he's going to go back to square one. And then, Rev, when you go back to square one, what are you going to do? You're going to be lost.
Well, listen, I do, obviously, we're getting ready for college basketball here. I do a lot with college basketball, and, I ask this all the time to players and coaches that come, and I say, well, there are certain teams or certain players have been in that spot to win or in a big game, and they kind of know what to expect. And a guy like Robert, and no disrespect to Robert here, but Robert hasn't had the experience that you've had. Robert doesn't know what it takes to win in DBW. You have certainly done that. You were one of the guys we spoke about the first time. When I think about the Mount Rushmore in DBW history, you're right there. This is not, trying to say, any ticket side or anything or not. You have done what it takes to win, to rise to the occasion. We see it all the time when we cover sports here on Sportswire, like college basketball. So obviously, Mr. Pearson, he's obviously got some things to do to change his situation, and he continues to go on. The DBW fan nation are the foundation. Always have been, always will be. As long as they're backing me up, I'll fight for them until I manifest a new fate for DBW. I see you laughing and shaking your head already.
Yeah, because, again, he's not going to learn. Look, the fans aren't going to help you, Bone Shaker. They're not going to help you. And then once you realize that, you'll be in a new light and a new man.
Listen, it goes back to what I've been asking here the last, I think, 10, 12 days on Sportswire with the different guests we've had on. There are two sides of the coin.
Yep.
You take the side and doing it for the fans. The fans are the reason I'm here. Fine. But then there are those that do it because you want the money and you want the gold. And at the end of the day, this is a dog-eat-dog world in the world of professional wrestling. This is not a team sport. It's all about I. So if you want to take the route for the fans, you may not be able to back it up, but if you do it the way you've done it, or some would say Mr. Judgment have done it, where you guys got the money, you guys got the gold, that's where it's at. So obviously that's going to be something that maybe Mr. Pearson has to fight from within. And I want to get to a few more comments. The Prophet is here. Yes, obviously backing up, obviously, Mr. Judgment. I want to say hello to Atomic Titan, obviously, in TBW. He won the Hardcore Championship. Yep, we're here.
The Hardcore. No, man, listen, I watched him, okay? And he wants respect, and he's the Hardcore King. Listen, I am a former World Extreme Champion, okay? I will gladly go into his backyard, and I will show him the true Hardcore King.
Well, I was just actually the reason I was kind of obviously say hello to him, and we'll certainly bring those guys back when that time comes. I was kind of actually trying to say that DBW is not the backyard. DBW to me is where the pros come, the indies come. So that's why, I was, wanted to give him a nod, but I really wanted for the audience show that DBW is where the big boys play. DBW is where people from all over the place want to come and wrestle. And DBW, by the way, judging by the views, judging by the subscribers, definitely is the place that a lot of people are going to continue to come to. And it's only going to get better and better from here because their last show also drew thousands of views. DBW's page has got thousands of subscribers. There's some companies that come on here and, they have a little bit of a footstep, but DBW's got a whole town and a village. So that's why you want to support DBW on all those links below. YouTube at Dominating Breakout Wrestling, Twitter at Wrestling DBW, Facebook at Dominating Backyard Wrestling. And my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, and the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. If you want to have a podcast out there, you want to play it, you want to hear yourself on the World Wide Web, you can do that here at our temporary link. I will have a brand new website for Sportswire very soon. Stay tuned the next week or two, and we'll have that out there. Also, we're going to have more coverage here coming up of DBW again Monday night, 9 o'clock Eastern time, Mr. Judgment. And then next Saturday, get this, for an afternoon matinee, 3 o'clock Eastern time, somebody you might actually like, Mr. T3 Thomas Taft is coming to Sportswire Radio. High Power, the Stompers. He's going to talk all about that. And if you've seen some of his recent work and his recent promos, he had a lot to say, Mr. Taft. And Mr. Taft has requested a microphone here live worldwide on Sportswire Radio. That is next Saturday, 3 o'clock Eastern time. You better be there or be square. You got no excuses, no reasons not to be. Thomas Taft is going to be live here on Sportswire Radio, and he is going to address, I'm sure, Robert Pearson. Yes. He is going to address Chaos Conspiracy because, well, he's got a victory also like Robert Pearson, somebody you share in common with. Obviously, High Power, they defeated Chaos Conspiracy and the Stompers, and, he knows these things very well, and I'm sure you and him would bond over that, and I'm looking forward to hearing from Mr. Taft for the first time live here on Sportswire Radio, so it'll be next Saturday, 3 o'clock Eastern time, and then Friday Night Live, we certainly go a little bit more underground, just like here with DBW, but XCW New Age champion Eric Mason is here live, 11 o'clock Eastern time. Obviously, he had defeated Corey Lee for that championship at their most recent show, so I'm very excited to have on Eric Mason for the first time. And again, not quite DBW, but XCW is one of our favorite companies here on Sportswire Radio. They do a great job, and certainly what their product is, they're kind of one of the gold standards out there along with DBW, so very excited to have here Eric Mason. It'll be Friday night, 11 o'clock Eastern time. But in the meantime, we're here with our brand new global champion, the It Factor Cyrus himself, and also Atomic Titan wants to praise DBW, but then he also says, come on then, brother, I'm waiting for someone to step up. But, we'll get to that, I'm sure, when the time comes. But, I want to talk to you, champ, actually, about somebody you defeated for your championship. I was watching this match, and, one of the first things that came to my mind when I was rewatching this match, and we were talking about this off the air, between you and the so-called Bitcoin billionaire, the double B himself, Chase Wakefield, a match that's a long time in the making, was, I feel like I was watching WrestleMania 20 between Goldberg and Brock Lesnar, because you guys come out and wrestle, and it was almost like the fans in one of the rare matches in DBW or out there anywhere in the world of wrestling that, like, the fans almost didn't know who to cheer for, and I guess they sort of cheered for Chase Wakefield, but it didn't really make a difference. And, talk about this match, because it was a long time in the making. It was worth it, but I was almost kind of like looking at the DBW universe, like I think they were kind of like unsure what to do.
Yes, they were unsure what to do, and they did cheer for, Mr. Wakefield slightly. And I think very slightly is, indeed correct. And I think the reason why is because they wanted to finally, boo Cyrus to the point where maybe that I wouldn't win said title. That's just my take on it, but I could be completely wrong. But yes, this match was literally 6 years in the making. Last time I faced Mr. Wakefield was 6 years ago, and I actually faced him for the number one contender championship in DBW, which further set me forward to becoming DBW world champion later on that year. So it was kind of like a full circle moment that he was trying to get redemption, but he clearly couldn't get the redemption or the job done, as I literally gave him a sit-down powerbomb that almost put him right through the ring. I'm surprised.
I saw that. And I think the running line was he's 125 pounds soaking wet, and yes. I was like, is he like more like 15 pounds soaking wet?
Yeah. And that devastating King's Curse off this, second rope. I'm absolutely, applauding the fact that he didn't move, because again, if he had any ounce of brain in his head, he did the right thing by just laying there and taking.
Well, I think twice he kicked out, and it was like the fans were like, well, yes. How did he do that? I thought you had him put away, I think, about 3 minutes earlier.
Yes, I had him put away quite earlier, and you're absolutely correct. But again, if he kicked out at King's Curse from the second rope, he was in for a beating of a lifetime. And I am very glad and very honored to pin his shoulders to the mat.
It would have been like if he would have got up and you would have had to do it again. It would have been like when I was a kid, and I grew up in Brooklyn, so it didn't happen too often. But when my mother would cook pancakes, and she'd take the spackler and you had the pancakes in the frying pan, that would have been like the doctors and the medical help there in the DBW arena. to take Chase Wakefield literally off the map, because they would have had to have scraped him with a spackler. Just like when I was a kid, my mother would make pancakes. I said, wouldn't happen too often, but that would have been Chase Wakefield if he would have had to have taken that move one more time.
Oh yeah, absolutely. And it was devastating enough. I picked up the victory, and then hopefully Chase Wakefield isn't like a Robert Pearson and thinks that he should get another rematch, because I mean, if he wants another rematch, maybe we'll wait another 6 years and then I could give him another.
Okay, but let me ask you a question. And I got comments here, but I want to talk about Wakefield for a second.
Okay.
Wakefield remember, he tried to run away from this company.
Yes, he did.
Wakefield, I want to get your perspective on it, because Wakefield, I'm surprised in a way the fans were, I guess, slightly cheering for him more than you, because he basically wanted to take his ball and run away. In wrestling, you're not supposed to take a championship from another company and go elsewhere. And he basically, even before the match, talked about taking this title and heading south, literally heading south to a company you just mentioned before called VTW. So help me out, and I'm trying to figure this out here. I mean, the fans, if anything, should have been saying, thank you, Mr. Cyrus. Thank you, the It Factor, because you were defending DBW against somebody that was basically trying to say, you know what? DBW, forget about them. DBW, I don't want to play here no more. I want to take this championship and misrepresent it. And, there's an old time and honored tradition in the world of wrestling that you do the right thing before you go to another promotion. And to the fact that this man could take DBW property, who knows what he could have done with it on VTW TV? Could he have thrown the title in the garbage? Could he have basically said every name in the book about DBW? Could he have revealed secrets? I mean, there's a lot that he could have did. And I want to get your reaction on some of this, because, again, Mr. Wakefield was even here on this show talking about some of those things. And again, at least from what I don't know much. Obviously, what do I know? I'm a peasant. I don't know much. The only thing I know about is being a businessman. Yes. And I do know about being successful in the world of radio. I have made a few dollars in my life. And what I do know is that there's almost kind of a handshake agreement to do the right thing. Your word is as good as anything else. He don't have no good word. You want to talk about all this here and kind of how you felt?
Chase Wakefield had two opportunities to take DBW Gold to VTW.
Yep.
He was going to take the Hub City Championship, but Caleb Matthews made sure that didn't happen. That was number one. Then Chase, I guess, somewhere in the midst of it all, had an epiphany and thought he could come back to DBW and try to get more gold to take on the VTW.
It made no sense. It made no sense, because he was here on this show and basically said DBW should drop dead.
Yes, made no sense at all. But then he comes back to DBW, and who allowed him in? I don't know, because I sure in the hell didn't allow him. Maybe DBW management allowed him.
Did he use some of the Bitcoin billions that he had maybe to buy somebody else?
It's quite possible, but again, I don't know, because next thing I know, he's in the tournament. I didn't even question it because, again, I wasn't concerned by any means.
Right, I understand.
So then he comes in, thinks he's going to take another DBW championship to VTW, and then fails all over again. And if you're Chase Wakefield at this moment in time, right now, where do you go from there knowing you have no gold? You're going down back to VTW with
empty-handed. Embarrassing. That's almost like you're going somewhere and it's like your tail is tucked between you. It's like, what do you have to show for? VTW was expecting you basically to deliver another company's gold on a silver platter, and yet you're coming here empty-handed. It's almost like you're a Bernie Madoff. You're a Ponzi schemer. You got nothing.
No, he has nothing at all. And I mean, maybe because he's best friends with Aaron Jones, because they are besties and they're best friends, maybe that he gets a little bit of leeway. But again, you're going there with nothing. So at the end of the day, Chase, I'm glad you came back to try to win something, but I just shot you down. Like,
what do you think about that, though? You said something interesting. We talked about in the beginning of the show that you always find ways to thrive in DBW. You have
Yes.
this landscape that has changed drastically in DBW. You have this roster from people from all over the place, different states, pros, indie guys now. People want to be in DBW. But yet guys all of a sudden like Chase Wakefield, the Mauler Brandon Costelli, who basically said they were going to go out and do things. Chase Wakefield had the Hub City Championship, was going to take that to VTW, couldn't do it. He wanted to take the Global Championship to VTW, couldn't do it. The Mauler Brandon Costelli set his sights on wiping out the Blaze Ace Christian, couldn't do it. Talked about Roland Havoc, the Warhound, to take the World Extreme title, couldn't do that. Where do these guys go from? Maybe it's not so much about you, because you always find a way. You're like a chameleon. But guys like Wakefield and Costelli, where do they fit in? Because they're the guys, as far as I've checked recently, calling a spade, they've dropped the ball and they've, well, frankly, failed.
Yes, they did fail. And I did touch upon Chase Wakefield, but I'll touch upon the Mauler, Brandon Costelli, because again, I have a hell of a lot of respect for the guy, number one.
Me too. I like Brandon. Brandon I like, because Brandon is a brawler. He's a fighter. I like Brandon, but, he's failed.
Yes, he did fail, but the thing I feel Brandon has to do is he has to look himself in the mirror and realize what brought him to the dance. I think once he looks in the mirror and realizes what brought him to the dance, then he'll have a clearer vision of what he needs to accomplish going forward. Unlike Chase Wakefield will just find another sneaky way to, pull some backdoor deal with some Bitcoin and probably get another championship, title shot at some expense. But whereas the Mauler, again, like I mentioned, will look himself in the mirror, do what he needs to do, push forward, and earn his opportunities at whatever said title that he possibly pursues going forward.
Well, yeah, possibly pursues,
Yes.
but obviously Costelli, I got that. But Costelli recently, again, the Blaze Ace Christian set his sights on. Couldn't get past him. Roland Havoc couldn't get past him. But now he's trying a new leaf. He's going about things in a way that you would not go about. So what do you think, though, about that? Because to me, wouldn't it seem like go back to the drawing board, be even more vicious, be even more ruthless, be the mauler, be the guy unleashed, but yet he's going almost almost, as I put it, almost like an apology tour. I actually coined the phrase when he was here a few weeks ago. It's almost like Brandon Costelli is apologizing.
Maybe he is taking the different approach, whereas he didn't care about the fans previously, and now he's apologizing to everyone. He's apologizing to whomever, and maybe he's actually listening to some of the fans that maybe they could get behind him and he could get that momentum going forward. I mean, personally, I don't know who he's going to maul because he hasn't mauled anybody.
I just gave you recent references. I mean, was Jim? I guess Jim he mauled. I mean,
yeah, I mean, he's been mauling Jim for years, and I'm surprised Jim is still alive and walking. But
I was going to say the same thing because I rewatched some of that stuff with Jim, and I'm like, all right, but what about everybody else? Okay, so I give you that, and I have comments. I'll get to them in a second. But Wakefield, I think we've established, though, that Wakefield really shouldn't – anybody should cheer for him. Anybody should trust him in DBW because he basically wanted to put a knife in the back of a company that in a lot of ways you helped build. All these outsiders, all these transplants, all these gentrifiers. In New York and Brooklyn, we use the term of people coming into our backyard here as gentrifiers. All these gentrifiers that are trying to come in here to DBW, and he's kind of joining in with that, Wakefield, and he wanted to put a knife in the company that you built. Maybe it is the house that Cyrus built, the house that Judgment built. And how could anybody trust him? I think is a valid point that you made.
I mean, personally, I can't trust him. I'm sure as hell no. I personally, in my opinion,
I'm sure Aaron Jones will find that out firsthand. I'm sure.
He'll find it out eventually. But the DBW locker room, when he was there, couldn't trust him. And he's one of the people that...
And Thomas Taft even talked about that in his most recent promo.
Yeah, exactly. Why do you think Thomas Taft took a different direction with the Stoppers? Because he realized that going with Chase Wakefield, he wasn't going to accomplish
He
anything.
said, I did what I had to do, but the truth was that I wasn't going anywhere. Chase Wakefield is about Chase Wakefield, and Chase Wakefield isn't about DBW. And this is a company, whether you like it or not, this is a company that you helped grow. This is a company that you helped build. And guys like Chase Wakefield just want to use DBW as a stepping stone to go to places that's best for them, not best for here. Let me get to some comments here. We got about 20 or 25 minutes here with the champion, obviously.
Comments.
All right, we'll get to them. Well, Cyrus, still running your mouth, are we? If you had problems with him, then I feel sorry for you when it's time for us to lock horns, champ. Whoa. You had problems with Pearson, but then he says for you to lock horns with him. Now, you want to kind of unpack this?
There's nothing to unpack. I will lock horns with anybody. Locking horns with Jackson Sabre literally is like trying to lock a bull in a headlock. It just ain't going to happen. Yes, he is a massive man. Yes, he has some kind of in-ring ability, if you want to call it in-ring ability. But at the end of the day, Jackson Sabre, when you think you're able to actually come face-to-face with me, then we'll, talk turkey, so to say. But at the end of the day, you're not going to, lock horns. I have a better chance of locking horns with Big Tex and giving Big Tex an opportunity than giving you an opportunity. So move it along. Let's go, Rev.
Well, we are close to Thanksgiving season with turkeys. So, I mean, we are about 3 weeks away from Thanksgiving. So I'll leave that at that. But, obviously we've spoke a lot about some of the current. Spoke a lot about different people, different companies, different personalities. And I'm curious now, as we put World War to bed, we go forward to the future here in DBW. And I'm curious now, what is the future for the global champion, the It Factor Cyrus, now that you've reclaimed your top spot and have gold?
Now that I reclaimed the top spot, DBW's global division is being put on notice that this is the premier championship division in this company. I am establishing the Book of Cyrus. Chapter 1 ended at World War. Chapter 2 is just beginning, and I will gladly take on all comers, whether it be 3, 4, 5, hell, I'll run a 10-man gauntlet, because by the time that gauntlet's done, I'm still going to be global champion. And whether it be DBW roster or a BTW roster or any roster out there, they're going to realize that no matter what, when they get in the ring with me, they're going to have to be more technically sound than yours truly.
Do you consider yourself the measuring stick in DBW?
I am the measuring stick of DBW. I am one of the measuring sticks of DBW, not to take any credit away from the final boss himself, because he is also the measuring stick of DBW. But I am the measuring stick in DBW. I will give you an example of being the measuring stick in DBW. There was a man, and his name was Zachary Depew. Yes. Zachary Depew, wrestling's greatest asset. Hell of a guy, hell of an individual. Love him to death. He came into DBW. Now, this was when I was pandering to the fans, mind you. He came into the DBW, and he thought he could make a name at my accord. But I gave him the limelight, and he faltered. Because, again, he didn't compete at the technical level as yours truly. But I gave him an opportunity. I'm willing to give anybody an opportunity that feels that they deserve a title, but they have to bring their A game, because if they don't bring their A game, if they don't bring the technical ability that, they could, bring out, they're just going to fall short all the time. I could preach it constantly. I could preach it any day of the week. Hell, I could preach it any month of the year, any year. It's still going to be the same result if you do not bring the level of greatness that I bring every time I step through those ropes.
No question about that, and I'm going to get to another comment, but I just want to say also on the point of the measuring stick. Sometimes you watch wrestling. Obviously, we know Mr. Judgment. He is the final boss. He's the prophet of purgatory. But when I see and I say you are our measuring stick. I mean that in terms of your ring ability, in
Yes.
terms of what you do from a mat perspective, a technician perspective, from a finishing move perspective. Nothing to take away from Judgment.
Absolutely
Judgment, and
not.
I've said this time and time again, Judgment is one of the guys in this entire sport that I think is on another level right now. For what he does at his size, it speaks volumes, and that's why he is where he is. Speaking of people that I think you see eye to eye on some things with, and again, my guest next Saturday has arrived, and he wants to say something to you, and that is Mr. Thomas Taft himself of High Power, the It Factor himself, the Global Factor. And he says, much love from yours, truly, brother, Black Hearts. And obviously, I think
Yes.
he appreciated some of the things
Yes.
you had to say about Mr. Wakefield. I'm looking forward again to having Mr. Taft himself here next Saturday, 3 o'clock Eastern time. So, like I said, if you're bored on college football, you're blue about baseball being ended, whatever else might be on your mind, it's a Saturday afternoon. The clocks obviously go back. We lose light. You might as well just stay indoors. Hear us as we get you ready for Danger Zone and some here. So big shout out to Thomas Taft. I'm looking forward to speaking with him here for the first time. So obviously we spoke a lot about a number of different things.
Yes.
But is there anything in particular now that you've got the global championship? Do you want to say to the locker room? Anything in particular that you want to say into addressing everyone here tonight in DBW?
Going forward, the DBW Global Championship, as you see right here, the Global Championship, it will be the premier championship in this company, aside from the DBW World Championship. I will absolutely never, ever lose this Global Championship. I plan to simply walk off into the sunset as DBW Global Champion. And in the event that does not happen, I will make sure that I will reclaim the DBW Global Championship. And this locker room, so to say, better be put on notice again, because I am technically sound in between those ropes, whether it be a simple headlock, whether it be a suplex. You got to be more technical than myself. And if you're not, you might as well not even come in the ring, and you might as well just turn around in your grand entrance and walk back through the curtain, because you know you're not going to be able to compete on my level.
Well, I want to say one thing on that before I do ask you something else on the title. I am in a way kind of glad that you said that, because whether you know this or not, I watch a lot of wrestling from different places, and without saying the initials of certain companies, there are guys that wrestle and say they're wrestlers, and they can't even do the simplest things. Now, I'm not a wrestler,
Yes.
and maybe this is kind of breaking the fourth wall here for a minute. This is leave aside the Cyrus and me kind of talking in character, that there are guys that can't even do like a normal punch, or can't do a clothesline, or can't do or sell a submission move, or whatever's done by their opponent. And like they're calling themselves wrestlers, or they're wrestling. I clearly think in that case, they should just stick to being fans, or just stick to watching it on TV. Or if they can't, maybe when it goes to a wrestling school or learning something, that they clearly maybe should just stick to doing something else. So that would just be my one little opine, because I do watch countless amounts of wrestling throughout the week, and there are certain wrestlers from different companies, different places, and
Yes.
I don't want to say names, but there are wrestlers that wrestle and it's like awkward. There's like this awkwardness, and it's like, well, I'm not a wrestler, and I could tell. So I appreciate the fact that you actually said some of those things. But I want to ask you this general question before I get to closing thoughts and a few more questions. We're here with the reigning, defending global champion, the It Factor Cyrus. My name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your man behind Sportswire Radio. If you want to follow the It Factor Cyrus, you can follow him here on the links below. Definitely follow him, because the book of Cyrus is continuing to be written. We're on chapter 2, but there are many, many chapters ahead here. Check him out on Twitter, YouTube, support DBW on all their great platforms. But, I know you've won a lot of championships. I know you've done a lot. But does it feel extra special in a way that, look at the success that World War had. Thousands of views, new subscribers out there. We're on a bigger stage. We feel like the air in DBW is different. We know that we're going to bigger and better things. We had a concert. We had fans. We had all these different things out there. People that were watching, that were in the business, that might want to come back. People who were looking for spots. We got a big roster. Is it almost extra? Is there extra satisfaction? Maybe I could put it in the fact that you won this championship on maybe one of the biggest stages and one of the biggest shows in the company's history?
Yeah, there was extra satisfaction for two main points. One, it was the biggest stage. It was our first World War. It replaced our other huge event, Judgment Day.
Yep.
So to win a prestigious title, as prestigious global championship really is in this company, it meant a lot, honestly. Despite what everybody else thought. And secondly, it's been a while since I actually held a championship. My last championship I held was the World Extreme title.
Yep.
I held the World Extreme title. I had to drop it due to nobody wanting to compete. I also held the Anarchy title, but again, those are just meaningless titles at this juncture in time. Do they rank up as to winning championships? Absolutely, Rev. They rank up there. But again, the global championship is the now championship. So my main primary focus is to make sure this title does not leave my possession.
Well, we're going to certainly find out. Obviously, we'll have a lot more shows ahead with DBW where we'll see that. And obviously, again, the most important championship, I would argue, is the one you hold currently. You've certainly done a lot in DBW. And I think also, again, winning it on this stage where we're seeing a lot more new DBW fans, interest is up. We see excitement, people from different places. Places like here on Sportswire covering DBW. I think it certainly adds to the excitement because we were talking a lot. We had you on here before the show. We're talking about all this motivation, all this excitement, and there's a build here. There's a different feeling and aura in the air here about DBW. And I think to win it on this stage, it's got to mean something. And again, listen, anytime you're a champion, doesn't matter where you are, it's a big honor, it's a big responsibility. You have definitely earned all of those things here. So I want to ask you then obviously a few more questions. And my obvious question is like, what do you think you will do that maybe you haven't done in the past to keep this championship and to be the only global champion?
I mean, I will do anything at any cost to keep this championship. I will win the dirtiest of ways. You name it, I will do it to keep this championship. Whereas before it was a simple, maybe a clean finish, or maybe it was a dirty move that the ref didn't see, or so on and so forth. At any point, that was then. This is now. I am willing to do whatever. If I have to use 3 guys while I ref is down in order to keep this championship, I will. If I have to use a fan to come in the ring and knock out my opponent while the ref is on the outside or something, I will do it. It's funny, and you laugh, but I will do it, whatever it takes to make sure I win this title and keep it.
Okay, I mean, obviously, I think using a fan is certainly an interesting tactic. I don't think you're going to need that, though.
I'll use a fan. I'll use a child. I'll use whatever it takes to make sure this title does not leave my possession.
Well, I mean, I would say I'll make you chuckle. A child probably weighs more than Chase Wakefield.
I mean, you're not wrong. You're absolutely right, 100% right. That the child does weigh more than Chase Wakefield. But again, you saw that I won the title at World War. From World War going forward, you're looking at the global champion for the remainder of DBW's existence.
Well, I'll tell you what, ladies and gentlemen, we expect a very long history, a prosperous, a fruitful history of DBW. And Cyrus, the book of Cyrus, has basically been written. And the chapter says the global championship will remain in Cyrus's hands for years to come, decades to come. Just forget about it. If you're going to try and take this title unrested from him, just don't even bother. Try another title. Go after Roland Havoc. Go after the Heretics. Go after Mr. Judgment even, because he's saying, he's making the claim, go over Caleb Matthews, that this championship is going to stay in Cyrus's hands for years and years to come. So whenever he decides that day is that he no longer wants to do it. And I got news for you. He ain't stepping away anytime soon. If you're out there, you want to join DBW, you want to try and make your name off the It Factor Cyrus, you either got 2 options. You can try it, or you could certainly say, you know what, I'm going to go elsewhere. I'm going to go try somebody else, or maybe I'm going to not even bother showing up to DBW. Because from what I've seen over these past few matches of the It Factor Cyrus right now may be in the best shape of his career. Cyrus might be in the best frame of his career. He's right now on a whole nother level. He's out there ready to do bigger and better things and are ready to take his long and prosperous career to even further heights. Certainly, we are in the season of trick or treat and Halloween, but I think it's going to be a very frightful season for those who may want to challenge for that global championship, including the likes of just maybe Robert Pearson, the Bone Shaker, Jackson Sabre. Hardly knew you. Wouldn't want to be you if you go out there and try against the It Factor Cyrus. And anybody else? Chase Wakefield, well, if he even is still a part of the DBW roster, although I do agree with you on one thing before I get to closing thoughts, I still don't know where he fits. I don't know where Chase Wakefield really fits into DBW. So, I mean, that's obviously not your concern. You've got a lot of things else to worry about. But, before I get to closing thoughts, is there anything else that you want to say, Champ, to anybody out there watching and listening or the DBW universe before we get to closing thoughts?
Closing thoughts. Well, I mean, there's not much that could be said. I did mention, if you follow my social media account on Twitter, I did say this is the prelude to Chapter 2. Chapter 2 is in the process of being written, and Chapter 2 will be much more fulfilling than Chapter 1. Chapter 1 was just, the icing on.
Chapter 1 of anything isn't really that fulfilling. Yeah. It's almost like
it's the setup. It's the setup for what you're about to see. And like I mentioned just a couple of seconds ago, I'm going to win at any cost. I do not care what I need to do. This title ain't leaving. So if you feel that you're competitive enough to come down and win this championship, by all means, come on down. I'll gladly step in the ring with you. In the event you get one up on me, great, congratulations. Then maybe I'll just give you some recognition that you beat a person of great stature that I am. In the event you don't beat me, which you're not going to beat me, I'll simply laugh, mock you, and go forward on to the next opponent. So I am putting the entire DBW roster on notice. I am putting, since VTW likes to come in our, facility, so to say, I'm putting the VTW roster on notice. And any other outsider that wants to come from anywhere, I'm putting them on notice. You want to come on my global championship? By all means, come on down. I'll gladly establish a line, and I'll knock them all down one by one by one.
Speaking of that, before we go, there is somebody who you very briefly mentioned tonight that is addressing you, and I have to bring this comment up. And it is Big Tex is here, and he says, Cyrus, I might have to come after the title.
Big Tex.
He's big.
Listen, yes, Big Tex, he is a massive man. And like I said, he has more in-ring ability than Jackson Sabre. But again, Big Tex, if you want to come after my title, I'll give you the time of day when I feel, not when you feel, when I feel. So personally, as I see it right now, you're not physically fit nor have any type of ability on my level to get a title shot. So you'll be waiting quite a while. Next.
So he would have to get to the back of the line and earn a title shot.
Back of the line. He has to earn what? I'll go as far as this. If he pins my shoulders to the mat, I will gladly give him a title shot.
Wait.
Yes, wait. You heard me correct, Rev. If he pins my shoulders to the mat in a singles one-on-one match, I will gladly give him a DBW global title shot.
He's here right now. I might want to take you up on that offer, though.
Good. Good. Let him take him up on. Take me up on that offer, Tex. If you pin my shoulders to the mat, I will gladly give you a DBW global title shot.
Well, he's here, and he says, keep the title warm. And then he goes on and says, time to squash a bug. Did I just hear that he called you a bug and is going to squash you? Are you sure this is what you want to do, champ?
I am absolutely 110% sure this is what I want to do. And he ain't going to squash a bug, number one, because he ain't going to be, fast enough and quick enough to actually keep up to me, because he'll take two steps and he'll be more winded than a windy day. But the fact of the matter is this: he ain't going to squash me. I am so confident that he's not even going to have the ability to pin my shoulders to the mat. So I am 100% not concerned at the fact that he's going to get a title shot. And then by some luck, he does get a title shot. He ain't going to win the title. It'll just be his moment of glory that Robert Pearson had. He'll be in a main event spotlight to elevate his status here in DBW, and maybe he'll get more title opportunities, but it won't be the global title opportunity.
I guess maybe you could also make the point that, listen, after what the High Power did to him at the end of World War there in the match between all of them, that what could even be left of Big Tex? I mean, you could make that argument, but apparently he's fired up because he says, what happens when I grab and slam you for the world strongest slam?
Go ahead. 1-2 kick out. You honestly think one world's strongest slam is going to keep me down after what I've been through this entire time in this company? You're as little, Big Tex, you're as green as baby shit, and you're going to sit there and tell me that a world's strongest slam is going to put me down? No, you're going to have to give me at least 2 or 3. So don't come in here on this podcast of greatness, so to say, and act like you're going to give me a world's strongest slam, and I'm going to say, oh, Big Tex, look at you pinned my shoulders to the mat. Congratulations. Not on my accord, son. Not on my accord. So again, it's not going to take 1. It's not going to take 2. Hell, it might not even take 3. You're going to have to do something else than a world's strongest slam.
Well, it certainly could be as green as, well, what's left of my Mountain Dew. But I actually, speaking of that, and Thomas Taft certainly seems to agree with you. He says, elevate. Yes, sir. But, speaking of that, I guess I should. And by the way, Thomas also wants to basically say, tell him, Cyrus. I guess speaking of greatness, I probably should bring this up because you are the champion before we sign off tonight. And, I've mentioned this in a couple of Sportswire shows. I might have mentioned this on one of the DBW shows, but we are starting a Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame because A, I'm getting ready for my 5-year anniversary, and B, there's some other places out there that quote unquote have this Wrestling Nexus Hall of Fame and these, different Hall of Fames. And people have actually said to me, Tom, why don't you start a Hall of Fame? And I was thinking, because you are the champion, you are the global champion, and you've had a resume that certainly speaks for itself. You are on the Mount Rushmore of DBW. I was wondering, sir, if you would like to come back before the year is out, and maybe I could, by the way, possibly induct you into my Sportswire Radio Hall of Fame, if you may be so kind to accept.
Absolutely, I'll accept it, and it'll be an absolute honor, Rev. Listen, I enjoy coming on your podcast. You're a stellar guy. Listen, I will break the fourth wall right now, and I'll break character because this is unlikely. Here, I'll go back to face Cyrus for just a couple moments.
Oh,
Rev,
God.
Oh, God. Here we go. Rev, you're a stand-up guy. You're a hell of a sports podcast host. Love you dearly. You know you're wrestling. It doesn't matter what you know everything, and I would truly be an honor to be in the Hall of Fame, and I will come whenever you come calling. I'll be glad to bring my world title, not world title, sorry.
Don't get Judgment riled up. He's here Monday. So
yes, I am sorry, Prophet. I am heated. It is the global championship, not the world. You're the final boss. Don't come at me. We're cool.
I got you. I'll back you up on that one.
I will be honored. I will be honored to come back.
So you know what? I'll tell you what. We have 2 months till the end of the year. We will bring you back next month, at the end of next month. I'll have my website running by then. My blog will be back up for Sportswire, and I will induct you into the Hall. I have a funny way, not funny, but it'll be an introduction, a legitimate introduction. I've actually conceptually thought about this because I've got people that have wanted me to do this. So we'll do it. We'll figure out the day and time. I'm glad that you would accept. I didn't tell you before we were on the air, but I figured let me tell it to you anyway, because I didn't know how you take it. So the fact that you would accept, I certainly am very happy that you would accept. So it will be my pleasure and privilege to induct you, sir. And I look forward to you bringing that global championship here with us live. And I certainly look forward to speaking with Mr. Thomas Taft next Saturday. If you want to follow the It Factor Cyrus one more time, you can do that on Twitter at _factor_Cyrus and on YouTube at It Factor Cyrus. And before we go, if you want to follow DBW and get ready for more coverage, YouTube, Dominating Breakout Wrestling. Join the 3,000 plus people who've already subscribed. Twitter, Wrestling DBW. Facebook, Dominating Breakout Wrestling. If you want to buy a shirt, Just go to those socials. You can buy a shirt that many people own from DBW and support them, support the movement, support the DBW universe. We're getting ready for Danger Zone. We're getting ready for coverage. Thunder Punch shows will be in between then. I'm sure you'll see a whole bunch of stuff out there. Stay tuned for that. And also, again, live Monday night, Mr. Judgment, the Prophet of Purgatory, 9 o'clock Eastern Time. Be there or be square. Congratulations on all the success. I'm looking forward to seeing you very soon. I'm looking forward to inducting you into my Hall of Fame. And I can't wait to watch you back in the ring here in DBW and continue to show people why you are continuing to write that book of Cyrus. And chapter 2 is going to be one that we're going to remember from ages to come.
Absolutely. You're 100% right.
All right, ladies and gentlemen, that was our DBW Global Champion, the It Factor Cyrus himself, who had won the championship at World War against the Bitcoin billionaire, they say, Double B, Chase Wakefield in the finals of the tournament. But he was here to talk about the future and what's left, and even some other people that have said different things and different opinions. And clearly, the champion has continued to back up his actions and words and some. So if you are on Sportswire Radio, our regular radio station, you go back to your regularly scheduled programming. You go to Peter Gabriel's Sledgehammer, whatever music tunes else out there. We'll be back here, though, Friday night. I'll be here Friday night, 11 o'clock Eastern Time with XCW New Age champion Eric Mason. And again, Monday, Mr. Judgment. Saturday, Thomas Taft, November 12th. And again, my name is the Reverend Tom Bryce, your voice of all wrestling, the host of the Sports Report, the owner of Sportswire Radio, the #1 global radio station. And good morning, good afternoon, good evening, wherever you are. Thank you, and we'll be back Friday night.